We're now being joined by lawyer and public policy analyst Liborous Oshoma for his thoughts on our continuing coverage of the public spat between Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. What are the possible legal angles that may determine the final outcome? Good morning, Liborous. Good to see you. Good to have you with us in the studio this beautiful Sunday morning.
Happy Sunday.
Thank you.
It's been an interesting week. Seriously.
Seriously.
Well, I mean, Liborous, your thoughts will be very welcome today, particularly on the issue that everybody has been talking about. I mean, yesterday in the studio, Sheitan and our colleague had in the studio, Ireti Bakari, who came up with different insights, etc. Other people have been talking about the issue, the spat between the Senate President and, of course, Senator representing Kogi. Is it North or Central? She's representing the Central. Mrs. Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Now, legal fireworks are about to start. Now, their spouses are getting involved. What are your thoughts in all this, really?
Yeah, first and foremost, I would say that sexual harassment is a very grave offense. It is a criminal offense and at the same time a civil wrong. And so you can actually take out, two suits concurrently, simultaneously. And then secondly, we have the court of law and the court of public opinion. Mm-hmm. In the court of law deals with hard facts and evidence. And it is only people who are called to the bar that do business in the court of law. But the court of public opinion, even people called to the restaurant, called to Buka, discuss law. And so, I want to look at this issue from both sides, the court of law and the court of public opinion. The first question would be, can the Senate look into the issue of sexual harassment? And I will tell you categorically is a no.
It's a no?
Yes. And you ask me why.
Why? Right.
We're chorusing the why.
Yes. Legally speaking, since the matter was not raised as a matter of privilege on the floor of the Senate, by the rules of the Senate, it's a matter that was raised in the public space, in the media. And there are ways you present such matters before the Senate for the Ethics and Privileges Committee to be empowered to look into it and investigate. And I also want to draw an analogy between what happened in the case of Saraki and this one. In Saraki's case, the question was allegation of two bulletproof vehicles meant for the office of the Senate President. It was not an allegation drawn in the public space about his persona. It was an allegation about the vehicles for the office of the Senate President, which were non-existent. Right. And so, in that light, the Senate had a right by their rules to look into the matter. Truly, does this vehicle exist? Were they the funds drawn from the Senate budget? If they were not drawn from the Senate budget, if they were drawn without approval, without the Finance Committee approval. So all of those issues will be looked into. But in this case, let's backtrack a little. What even led to all of this? How did we get here?
Yeah.
There are allegations that by their rules, by the Senate rules, if the Senate President has a right to change seats from what we have, been inundated with now. And so, some persons have changed seats, and then when there is decamping in the Senate, they rearrange seats. And so, a senator's seat was changed. Like Akpabio's seat was changed during Saraki, and he fled up, and at the end of the day, he subsequently apologized. In this case, I fought Akpabio. Akpabio should have allowed before ruling on the matter raised by the Senate Chief Whip, he should have allowed even though she's not seated in her seat, allow her ventilate and then overrule her.
How does that tie to Order 10? Because that was something that she kept
Order 10 is a privilege when a senator Order 10 is subservient to Order 55 and Order 65. That you must move, you must speak from the seat allocated to you. And so in that case, if I were the Senate President, I will certainly overrule her, but allow her to speak, give her audience.
All right, so that was the conversation. We've had these conversations over and over again.
Let me finish.
But I want, because of time, I want us to just talk about why you're here. Since you're a legal practitioner, and you raised the point, and your point is the fact that sexual harassment cannot be investigated in the fall. But you know that former Senate President Bukola Saraki has called for an investigation, and he's called for transparency, and he also talked about for the Ethics Committee to investigate this matter and make sure that it is done in alignment with fairness. There should be no taking sides of parties and all of that. This he released yesterday. And, you know, I mean, I see no reason why that shouldn't go ahead because it is the Ethics Committee. That's my first question. Second question is the fact that the wife of the Senate President, she has accused Natasha of lying and has slammed her with a defamation rights suit as well as a fundamental, rights suit as well. And a lot of people have questioned as to, is she the one being defamed? What right does she have to ask? Let me tell you. Those are the two questions that I have. First
and foremost, these are needless distractions, really, I must say. The budget had been assented to by the president, and nobody's talking about it. We are distracted with seat arrangement.
Right.
And then the issue of Senator Bukola Saraki, for me, that's politics of 2027. And do you know why? Recently, he's an opposition. He has a right to his opinion on any matter. He can issue statements and call on. When Senator Ningi was suspended, where was Saraki? When did he find his voice? That's the same Senate he led when Senator Ndume had issues in this same Senate. So the question for me is, legally, let's look at this issue. Let's interrogate the issues legally and leave out sentiment. And so these issues, what is the procedure for raising issues in the Senate? What is the procedure for bringing matters before the privileged committee of the Senate? On the day that these issues happen, if we are informed that it happened in 2023, if in 2023 this matter had been reported to the police and I see a letter from a lawyer and you file a suit, in fact, I will say thumbs up. That's the procedure to follow legally. And then the social media can take the rest. After that, then you file a suit in court alleging defamation. That suit, there was nowhere mentioned in that suit, no sexual harassment. Because I told you it's a civil right also. You can claim damages. It was not mentioned. And then
but that's a separate case.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Why are you adding that?
You talked about the issue, and then I'll come to the issue of Akpabio's wife.
Yes, that's
there was no need for even her going to court, say my family's name has been dragged. If I were a lawyer, I would advise her, look, all these are needless distractions. If you want to join issues, if you feel there's a matter in court, you can join issues there, you can counterclaim. So in these instances, you now have a situation where the matter was never reported to the police. The matter was not reported to even the women in the Senate. In here on her right, she said, I didn't tell my husband. But the husband issued a letter and said, she told me. As a lawyer, I sit down and interrogate all of these issues, and I ask myself, if I'm a lawyer in this matter, what would the judge ask me? So if my client...
She didn't tell her husband at the time. It doesn't mean that she did not tell her husband at all. On that night.
You have to get the point that Liborous is
we get your point.
I'm quoting statement made here. And so as a lawyer, I will ask myself, what will the judge do in this circumstance? And then you look at the privileges. You say, oh, my privileges, my rights and privileges has been breached. And you became a senator via the Court of Appeal decision sometimes in October. And in 2 weeks later, you became the head of a committee, local content committee in the Senate. And you have about 73 committees in the Senate, 109 senators. First time senator, 2 weeks, you become a committee chair. and then subsequently,
As an opposition senator.
as an opposition senator, then subsequently you become a committee chair for diaspora, Senate Committee on Diaspora. If this is how to abuse privileges, I want to have those kind of privileges. What we have here really is one oppressor against another oppressor. And I wouldn't want to be...
What did two
The two, look, these are politicians.
Okay.
These are politicians.
So you
they
also
are
believe
not
that Senator,
quarreling.
you believe that Senator Tasha is also
In what way is she
oppressing-
oppressing, right?
See,
That's your point.
These are
Yes,
politicians. Our politicians oppress all of us.
Can I just ask this?
Yes.
Because we're talking about, you said something that it cannot be raised in this, within, in the Senate. It's not possible. Unless it goes
sexual
through
harassment part of
a
it.
sexual harassment part of
Yes,
it.
yes.
Now, what do you say to a situation like this where the person that is being accused is the president of this, or the president of the Senate that has been working on? Isn't that already a conflict of
why
interest?
I have to be, if I were a lawyer, that's why I would have to be very tactical. What you do, I won't come in the media to raise it. I will do a detailed petition to the Senate Committee on Ethics. Mm-hmm. You do that detailed petition,
Right.
alleging what had happened, and then there's what we call proof of evidence in criminal matters. Mm-hmm. You attach your proof of evidence, and then at that point, not just the Senate, now the entire world will now have, locus to call on the Senate President to stand down and let this committee investigate this matter. Mm-hmm. As we speak, there is no such petition before the Ethics Committee of the Senate. What is before the Senate is the event that happened on the day when her seat was changed. I think our lawyers are not doing a good job here. The matter is not for public social media to deal with. It is for the Ethics and Privileges Committee. And if it is not reported to them, you don't just raise the matter and say, go and deal with it. Right. And in law, we say he who asserts must prove. And in proving, I have learned, okay, she said I have evidence. If I were her lawyer, the first thing I would do would be, those evidence, I will attach them to my petition first. Okay. So that, you know what happened in other crimes? Once you are arrested for an offense, the proof of evidence, they would have concluded investigation before you are confronted with this arrest and allegations and proof of evidence, and that it becomes very easy. Once any reasonable mind that sees it will say, you committed this crime. But when there are no proof of evidence, you create a divide in the public space. Right. And then people begin to doubt, is this or is that? So for me, I'm speaking to our lawyers in this matter. There are procedures. Follow those procedures. Leave out all of this sensation. Follow those procedures if you truly want justice. Otherwise, you just create sensation and then the matter will die down and then tomorrow again somebody else. And like somebody says, now people are beginning to say, matter when concern woman and man, there must be sexual harassment allegation because the proper things have not been done.
Okay, let me come in there, Liborous. You said there are two oppressors involved.
Yes.
I'm trying to look at it slightly differently. And that is to say, are we looking at two flawed individuals? If this case goes to court from different angles, if it goes to court as it looks like it's going to court already, do you think that this might lead us into, interrogation
of character?
Of character.
Yes, certainly.
And I start with the Senate President, who we know had been accused in the past, of sexual harassment, allegedly. I'm not sure if the woman that was involved, pressed for that, the former NDDC, MD.
You see what I'm saying?
That's one point. And then on the part of Senator Natasha herself, could we get to a point where people now begin to drill down as to a seeming pattern of accusation?
Yes, certainly.
Right from the time that she got married at 19 first and was in the University of Abuja. And one of the first things that she allegedly said, as at that time, after the death of her father, and getting married at a young age, and having a child at a young age, was to say that part of what she has learned was that the fragility of innocence attracted mercilessly the world's monsters. And people, allegedly, that was attributed to her. And part of what people will say that maybe there were underlying issues of dealing with men. If you now take that to the encounter between her and Reno Omokri, which was eventually settled out of court, and even the encounter between her and her current husband, High Chief Akpoti-Uduaghan. I think there's a letter flying around allegedly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, if you look at the letter debunking the letter, the two signatures are the same. I'm a lawyer. A senior advocate.
So that's my point.
Senior advocate will not put his signature and his seal.
Two flawed
So yes, we are. So because when a matter of sexual harassment gets to court, and you put your character, definitely you put your character and the character of the other person in issue. So the character of the other person is going to be discussed. What's the pattern? And that's why for me, when there are issues like this, you detail your evidence and attach a petition. The other lady raised the allegation and it ended there. So it becomes your word against mine. No proof, no evidence, nothing.
And so when the usual case for
exactly.
sexual harassment,
wait,
I mean, isn't that one of the toughest cases
I've handled
to prove?
I've handled cases of sexual harassment.
Yes.
I've handled allegations also where a client comes to me and said, Lasma did this to me. Lasma stole my 200,000. And I immediately fired a petition, even without digging further. And then there's a panel is set up for us to come present our case. And then the Lasma official said, you know what? The first thing, I believe in this law of justice, but please come to the vehicle. He opened the bonnet and said, I will take water from the radiator and we both sweat. My client started sweating. Mm-hmm. So, as a lawyer, I have seen both sides. Mm-hmm. So, in issues like this, when you come to me and say, I have proof, I have evidence, I look at your evidence and I examine them. Before I go public, I make sure that all of those evidence are attached.
All right.
And so it now becomes, I'm answering the question so that, and then the issue of Akpabio's antecedent will be in the public. The issue of our own antecedent, you talked about the Reno Omokri. I read the Reno Omokri statement yesterday, and he said, I put out proof that I was not even in Nigeria at that time. And so all of this will be
to delete all those messages and settle out of court.
And then at the end of the day, all of these things will be thrown in the midst. That why is it that there's always this allegation, and then at the end of the day there is no proof? So that's why I said, look, it is not a matter for public opinion. Right. It's a matter for the courts. Yeah. And as a lawyer, what do I look out for in matters like this? Mm-hmm. I look out for proof and how the matters were laid out. They were not properly laid out.
So I'm glad that you have said that you have tried, sexual harassment case. And this is what I want you to discuss really, because like you said, it is a crime. In fact, I was speaking with my sister yesterday and she was talking about the fact that, do we really have those sexual harassment cases in Nigeria? It almost seems like a norm. Where are the wins? And I just wanted to clarify again, because there is a note today that was flying yesterday from Natasha's husband saying that Natasha did reveal to him that there was sexual harassment between herself and Senate President Godswill Akpabio, and he had met with the Senate President to discuss this issue as well. I'm also glad that you have talked about the fact that there could be a petition that Natasha should bring in for the Ethics Committee to look through. I hope that she does that, and hopefully the Ethics Committee would look at that. But really quickly, sexual harassment. What is the crime? How is it being tried? And what are the wins? And what can we take away from this?
Okay, first and foremost, for a matter of that nature, how was he laid? Mm-hmm. He held my hand, my husband was there, and this was what he said to me. Aside that, certainly there might be text messages, SMSs, WhatsApp conversations, all of that. These are evidence of that you can allude to, that you can draw inferences from. That for this kind of conversation, certainly there must be something. If it is just, I held your hand, and my husband was there, and my husband now said, my husband asked me, and I said, no, nothing happened. In such cases, it becomes your word against his. Mm-hmm. And then the court will now have to weigh in on the basis of probability, who's probably speaking the truth. And then on some of the cases I have handled, even rape.
You really think that a sexual harassment case in this matter can go to court?
That's what I'm telling.
That hasn't been said at all.
He's making reference to sexual harassment cases.
General.
I get that point, but I'm saying drilling down. Do you really see this going to court?
That's what I'm telling you. If there is evidence beyond, he had my hand. Certainly, you will go to court. But if there's no evidence beyond that he held my hand and he told me this, then it becomes difficult for you to establish.
Those are the questions.
And so that is why, at the beginning, the moment it happened, and what you should have done is, you talk about the letter from
Natasha's husband.
The husband and even the lawyer. The first thing would have been, you do a letter. Documentary evidence speaks for itself. Look, this, and so by today, we would have been talking about, yes, when this matter happened, this was the letter that was written. Because now the other side is saying, look, if all of these things happened, you enjoyed these privileges, even after you said you were being harassed, you went on international parliamentary conference with the same man, and you people were taking selfie, and all of those things. Does this, so you create doubts in your stories. And that's why, in some cases, rape also, you find the victims because of stigmatization. Some of the victims are not ready to talk. But there are some cases, after listening to the story, I tell you, look, you have a strong story here. We can hear this matter in chambers. And so it is not a question of we go to social media, we bamboozle the social media, then you leave out the meat of it.
We've run out of time, but very quickly, in about 48 hours since this accusation was made, it was made on Friday. Should we be expecting to hear anything from the Senate President? Does he owe us a statement? We've heard from the two spouses, we've heard from Natasha herself, but we've not heard anything from the Senate President that has been accused.
Do you know why the Senate President will not make statements?
Okay.
Because if in law we say there are what we call no case submission. If you levy allegation and then your lawyers review the allegation and say, look, these allegations, they are allegations, there is no direct link to you. There's no need for you to respond. But if there is a direct link and it's been established, at that point, even the court will call you, no, this no case submission, I overrule you, come enter a defense. So the question I will now ask, the question is there any proof, any hardcore evidence that all of us can now look into and say, look, Mr. Senate President, we need you to come and defend yourself. That's what I am saying, that the lawyers need to, that's what they should have done first.
All right.
But in the absence of that...
I think that's what, essentially, that's what Senator Saraki is saying.
Yes,
exactly. That, maybe you might need to step aside for a while and let the ethics committee
politics of 2027.
But there will be politics. There will be politics.
For Akpabio's wife, her $250 billion defamation suit, you are saying it's going nowhere at this point.
You say, okay, it's your family name. There is an allegation.
Yes.
There's an allegation. Somebody's alleging. You can't say. And she has gone. That's why I think also she needs to go to court on this matter.
All right.
And then if there is evidence, you present the evidence. Otherwise, if you just leave it in the realm of allegation, the woman can say, you've dragged my family name. And so for that, and since you failed to go to court for that, I need damages.
Well, these lawyers are engaged, isn't it?
Certainly.
Liborous Oshoma, we want to thank you for joining us on the morning show today.